I can't see the Zoom people, so hopefully they can hear me. Okay, cool. Hi, London. Good morning. Hi. Hi, everybody. My name is Carly of the Sablatney team at Living. All right, session 16. Ignite goes by pretty quick at this point, if you have not discovered that already. Working with buyers and sellers. So a lot of you newer agents, if you've been licensed within the last 2 years, there's going to be a huge shift in this right now. Some of you haven't really had to negotiate things as much as, you know, if you've been doing it for years and years. Yes. Oh, I did. Did you miss it? Yeah. No, that's okay. Carly, I'm with Living. The Sablatney team, my office is right over there. So I have been, I've been in the industry technically since 2017. Prior to that, my father, who is also a licensed agent now, he got his license at 69 years old over the summer. Had 16 rentals, used to flip houses up until 2008. So it's always been there. And we are on track to do about 100 units this year over all time, somewhere near 400. So yeah, we do okay. All right. A lot of the instructors are kind of loosely following the slides. We'll probably do the same thing. A lot of these items on here are a larger conversation than just hitting on a couple of bullet points. All right. Yep, 16. This slide, this is an MREA quote. If you haven't read The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, read it twice. Draw that book all up, highlight things, take notes. It's an amazing book. I read it even before I came to Keller Williams. So virtually every top producing agent we have ever worked with has a deep and almost inherent sense of service. They have a servant's heart and a place their buyer or seller's real estate experience above all else. They are always thinking service. People are pretty smart these days. They're going to know if you're treating them like a paycheck. They're going to figure that out pretty quickly. And taking care of them, that's how we get those referrals. And we have a business that stands the test of time. Okay. I'm not going to do this birthday month question thing. All right, agent-client communication. Why is that important? These 4 items here. Going to provide a strong foundation for sustaining the relationship, sets and manages expectations proactively throughout the transaction, creates a peace of mind for your clients, and increases your credibility. It's really rare that you can over communicate with them. I don't know if any of you guys have waited tables. I spent 13 years doing it prior to real estate. And I can kind of relate it to that, where I would greet a table and I would say, hello, my name is Carly. I'll be taking care of you this evening. And they would either start bantering with me or they would interrupt me and say they want a Diet Coke. That is an entirely different form of communication for that client. And I know exactly how they want to be taken care of. Ask your clients up front how they prefer to be communicated with. Are they a phone call person? Are they a text person? Are they an email person? Are they early morning? You know, how do they prefer it? And it's always important to remember too, especially with buyers, they don't do this every day like we do. So we're buried, we are, you know, up to our eyeballs in real estate, and our clients are not. So even if they've bought and sold before, the market's always shifting, processes are always shifting. So get educating them. If you don't have reading materials, informational things, they're really important to get buyer and seller presentations I know those kind of fell by the wayside the last couple of years, but they are, if you can get in there and get one of those with your buyer, it's going to save you time later on.
Okay, do you keep those on you at all times, the buyer presentations and the packets, or is it something you can grab from the office or print out, or how do you do that?
So we have a Google Drive for our team and they're all in there. So we have buyer packet, seller packet. We have PowerPoint presentations. We have one for rent to own. We have information on selling to buy, staging, all that kind of stuff. I don't keep them on me at all times, depending on the client's preferred method, because I'm a big fan of saving trees if I can. Oh, there's people in the waiting room. So if I can save some trees, I will send it to them in a PDF. But when I show up to an appointment, a lot of the time I'll print them out, and it depends on the situation. If I think the house might need staging, I will, potentially bring that packet with me. Sorry, it's gone. Yeah, so they're in the drive. They're always accessible. I can send it to them pretty easily, but I don't have them on me at all times. And I'm forever having to update them as we add people to the team because everyone has their own little bio spot. So. But yeah, super important. This is, I find, one of the things that's going to set you aside from other agents, right? Anyone can take a Zillow call and set an appointment. I had a phone call yesterday during our team meeting. I called the number back 20 minutes later and she had already called someone else. And I said, that's okay. She goes, I was trying to reach Keller Williams. And I said, well, were you trying to call on one of our listings, or, what were you trying to do? And do you remember who you spoke to? And she didn't. So in that span of 20 minutes, she had called me, she had called someone else, set an appointment. She didn't know who it was. I don't want to do that. There's a statistic I read a couple of years ago that stuck with me, and I have made it my personal goal to do better than that. And it was something like 26% of people remember who their agent was 6 months after closing. Heartbreaking, right? You just live and die for these people and you do everything and you bend over backwards and then they forget. So at least I want my clients to value me, and I want to be their lifetime person that advises them as opposed to this transactional human being. And I know you get sometimes compared to like car salesmen. I've bought like 7 cars in my lifetime. I probably don't remember the name of any of the people I met with at the dealership. So, but I do remember who sold me my first house before I was licensed. All right, 3 levels of service. I don't know what these faces totally have to do. No, they don't apply to these 3 directly. So we want to be this guy, this happy 5-star, 6, 7-star. So let's get into these 3 items. I'm going to read just the definitions off of this guide here. So purpose: masters of service have a clear understanding why they should be hired and can articulate it to anyone at any time. Great service begins with a clear purpose for why someone should work with you. So you want to lay out your value proposition there. What do you have to offer? What is your why? What is your elevator pitch? You should probably have that down to a minute if needed, and a little higher than that. And your actual value proposition. The best agents can translate their purpose and why people should hire them into a specific set of services they will provide. So for a buyer, are you big on education? Can you connect them with the right lenders to help them save money? Are you amazing with first-time home buyers? What about empty nesters that are downsizing? There's all kinds of things that you can offer expanded knowledge on. And our fiduciary duties. We hear that word a lot in real estate school. Highly productive agents provide a level of service based on their commitment to act as a fiduciary for their clients. They place their clients' interests above all others, even their own. A fiduciary brings a level of care and trust to the relationship that a functional agent does not. You are working for them the second you take them on as a client. And I tell my clients that all the time, especially the buyers. Say, I work for you now and I am free labor. You don't have to pay me. When's that ever going to happen again? Okay. Does anyone remember the difference between a functionary and a fiduciary? Crickets. Okay.
Functionaries are just doing the basic tasks.
Yes.
right?
Yeah. It's a specific task relationship, right? So, cashier, the grocery store. If you ever go to Aldi and they're like, that is a functionary. They do one thing for you. You're in and you're out. Fiduciary is a higher level of trust. And that's what we want. Because realistically, a lot of our clients come to us and they don't trust us yet. They're a little, we have to earn that. And whatever that looks like, we're going to befriend them. We're going to educate them. There should be a chart in your guide. I'm not entirely sure what page, but there's one that outlines the difference.
I think 16.4.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have the guide on me. Karen and Gara had to step out today, so we had talked about leaving me one, but that is all good. I flipped through it a few weeks ago. It's pretty awesome. And that was the slide to discuss that. I don't need to dig too deep into that. It's a pretty basic concept. Dual agency, that's when an agent represents both buyer and seller. Why do some people get uncomfortable with that? Because you have a fiduciary to your client. So if you are contracted to act within the seller's best interest, you have to disclose that to the buyer, and you have to also act in their best interest. And you have to be real with yourself if you can do that or not. Here at Living, and I'm not entirely positive, what the rules are at Legacy and Elevate. We are not supposed to do dual agency. You can refer to your favorite agent. The buyer can opt to be unrepresented. So if you run into something like that and they really want to speak with you because you're the listing agent, you can always check with someone called the ALC hotline on how to best handle that. So it's not that you can't talk to them, but you have to really quickly have a conversation with them about it. And it's something to really tread lightly with. Can you negotiate against yourself? You can't let anything slip that is something that the seller has told you in confidence, or vice versa. And some agents, even if it's loud, they won't do it. So that's entirely, oh, thank you. I have the participant guide. Oh, she's heavy. I don't know how people do it with 2 monitors. This is a lot of things to read at one time. All righty. Perfect. Okay. Gara is a gem and she opened it to the proper page. She is the best. Okay. All righty. So we talked about the 3 levels of service in a fiduciary relationship. So you know the what, and now we're going to get into the how. So I'm happy to be here teaching this class because I feel like I put a ton of focus on this and I feel like I can really help with it. Somebody's saying something in the chat. The chat's gone though. Okay, whoever asked the question in the chat, I'm trying to open it, but it's not working. Okay. I apologize. Okay. Well, that's fun. Clients are unlikely to move more than every 8 years. That's actually more than it used to be. I think the last time I read a statistic on that, people were buying 2 to 3 homes in their lifetime, so. That's a pretty interesting statistic. That's why you don't want to fall off. You want to keep up with them. All right. Here's a basic outline of the transaction process. Partner with an agent, get pre-approved for a home loan. Some people will do that interchangeably, and that's okay. Set clear search criteria. So that's something your clients want to talk about, right? So if you get a call, you get a lead online and you go, hey, okay, awesome. Let me look that up. Are you pre-approved? A lot of them just shut down, even though that's a really important conversation to have. It is depending on the client. Some people don't like to discuss that. Some people are scared. We have to keep in mind too, some cultures don't discuss finances. So we have to tread lightly bringing that up. So the way I like to do that, and I love that they put set clear search criteria first, I make it all about that in the beginning, right? I have a couple different ways I do it. I do it over the phone. We have an online survey. I used to use a Google Doc. We've actually switched to this program called Honeybook. So it's really, really easy. They can just click through, tell me everything they want, everything they're looking for. Towards the bottom middle is where it asks about financing. So they've already talked about their dream yard and their square footage and their bedrooms and dreamed really big. And then I can get a little bit more into that if they're more technological. Also, if I didn't have a huge conversation with them, maybe it's a Zillow lead that didn't want to call and they just kind of come in as an inquiry and I'm plugging them into my CRM. Send a follow-up too. So that initial MLS search or wherever you're setting that up, include it in the email, send a follow-up. Says, hey, great talking today. I've set up an alert for you, 3 bedrooms with a pool. If we need to adjust anything down the line, please let me know. If we need to change, the price range after we connect with the lender, let me know.
Quick question. So
Yeah.
when you say like the pre-approval is interchangeable, say you do the buyer presentation before the person has the pre-approval and then they're not able to get pre-approved. So like, is it better to have them have the pre-approval before you set the appointment, or is it like?
Before the buyer consultation?
Mhm.
I don't typically require it because through the buyer consultation, I'm going to have a conversation with this client, what their needs are, what their concerns are.
Mhm.
So I can most of the time better recommend a lender at that point.
Mhm.
So if I meet with them and they're wanting to know down payment assistance, which is a great conversation to have because I have a lot of people asking for it, but it's not actually a fit for everyone because of the rate increase that typically comes with it. Or maybe they want, the best rates out there. They want someone who's gonna have a consultation with them. They need their hand held. They don't. So, and a lot of the times when they come to you pre-approved already, they're either with one of your lender partners or they've just done like an online something or other and there's no personal connection there yet. So it depends. So some of them do one first and then call an agent. But we ideally want to be able to find a lender that's a good fit for them. That's just my opinion. No question?
Oh, yes, I was just wondering, are we with the other teams today or not? Mhm.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know if Elevate's come in. At first, they were not here because of a team meeting, but I saw some other people pop in, so.
Well, we usually see them up down the street. That's probably okay.
Yeah, I've got this list here. But I don't know how to get their faces up. Oh, here we go. There they are. Hi, everybody. Okay. All right. You house hunt, you offer, you negotiate. You may negotiate on the initial offer. Go back and forth. This is going to be new to some of you guys, but trust me, it's real fun. It's my favorite thing about real estate versus when I used to wait tables, because I was never allowed to respond when people were getting sassy with me. And now I can roll up my sleeves and do that in a professional way. Yeah, I'm clicking show chat previews, but it's not showing me the chat. I think Gira had to leave, but I'm gonna send her an email real quick. Maybe.
What do you need?
I don't know how to get the chat up. I'm like
Um,
clicking it and I'm seeing people like something in it, but I'm not seeing.
Oh, Legacy, I can keep an eye on it for you. Legacy said that they do dual agency.
Okay. Legacy allows dual agency. We don't explicitly allow it, but you can either, if the buyer agrees to be unrepresented, or you can refer it out. And we've had this happen recently with our team, and we were told to have one of the team members do their own admin work. There were a couple other points to that, but if you run into it, just ask Rick and he'll tell you how to do that. Because it was my listing and then another team member brought a buyer, so I wasn't working with them. Okay. Under contract that you're going to inspect, you're going to recommend vendors. If you don't have a list of recommended vendors, please do it. It is not only an amazing way to provide value to your clients, but those vendors can oftentimes refer you business, right? So you connect with the local handyman, the plumber, you've got that in your back pocket to recommend, and then sometimes they'll recommend clients to you, right? So my preferred plumber was a client. I've got a painter that was a client, got a handyman that gets called for a lot of little stuff. So he goes to houses and ends up, they say they're going to get ready to list. He's got agents he likes. Then you negotiate inspections. This is something that's going to be new to some people, right? So typically you inspect, you negotiate repairs. There's a lot that goes into that. There's very specific ways you should write in ROC to protect you and protect your buyer. So I have seen ROCs come to me that might say something like, kitchen sink has small leak. Can anyone tell me what's wrong with that? No.
The lender does not want to see any types of things.
The lender doesn't, but we don't typically send them the ROC. The issue with that is they're not asking for a repair. They're just disclosing it. They're not providing any kind of solution for it. So I would call that agent and say, would you like a licensed plumber to repair that and provide the receipt? Yes.
I thought with that, the only time you would really go is when it's, like this electrical, is health issues that you would go back to a seller and ask them to do things.
So we have a conversation with a buyer when they're going into an inspection. Generally, I will tell them, they're going to find things. It's their job. Your head's going to spin. They're going to be talking about a lot of stuff. I generally recommend that we only request for health and safety items, but we, at the end of the day, have to do what they're asking us. So if we have that conversation and they still want to come in and ask for paint patches, yeah, we're working for them. So we can't ask for, for instance, loans have a maximum amount of credit that they allow. So if that's $6,000, you can't ask for a $20,000 credit. So yeah, we can set expectations and we can give them recommendations. We can tell them what typically works, what makes the most sense to ask for. If they want to go rogue and ask for little cosmetic things that may not get accepted, then the seller's probably going to come back and say, no, we're not doing that. But we can't tell them no. Unless it's something that's fully not going to work. And that's going to be new to a lot of people. I've had ROCs that are 17 items long. I've had inspections where people have called a family friend building inspector instead of a home inspector. So instead of turning the oven on, they are measuring the stair treads. I don't recommend doing that. Yeah, and then you have your appraisal. 95% of the time that's going to come back fine. Sometimes it's not, and you're going to have to negotiate that. Got a couple options there. They can walk, the seller can come down, the buyer can come up and pay out of pocket. They can meet in the middle. And then you move into closing. Don't forget to do your final walkthroughs, please. They feel unimportant, but they're very important, because if your buyer goes to closing and there's a problem that could have been caught at the final walkthrough, that becomes your problem real quick. If they choose to waive it, get that in writing. All right, time expectations. Getting into that, there's a really great tip that I learned really early on. I think I was at a panel or training or something. And one of the agents was talking about the buyer consultation, and we're all going to have buyers that run us through 20, 50 houses. It's going to happen even more now that there's a little bit more inventory and they've got a little bit more to pick from. This agent recommended, and it works like a charm sometimes, setting that expectation. You know, we're going to look at as many houses as we need to before we find the one. We may extend some offers. The right one always works out. Typically, we're going to look at 3 to 5 before you write an offer. And you put that on the table up front. You tell them that's what most people do, because it is. And it won't prevent all of them from looking at 30 houses in a day. But mentally, it's going to teach them, okay, I should maybe find out what my wants and needs are here. And most people are going to write an offer within 3 to 5. So if I'm not doing that, maybe I need to reassess. You're going to keep that in mind when you're setting up their MLS search. If someone needs to move in 30 days and they send you a house and the broker remarks say, seller needs 90 days to move, it's not a fit. So always read your broker remarks before just throwing that showing in there. Read your disclosures, because sometimes there's something in there that they won't outright put in the broker remarks. And if it is a deal breaker for your client, it's worth telling them and not wasting their time. Because if you walk in the house and the foundation's falling in, that was on the disclosure, that's not a fun conversation to have. Of course, sometimes you'll walk into a house and the foundation's falling in and it's not on the disclosure. Yeah, same thing goes for sellers. You know, you might tell them the first week on the market, it's going to be chaos 3 months ago. And then now they're going to list in a couple of weeks, and that looks very different for them. I have a client in South Euclid, and a couple months ago, we had a conversation. And then 2 weeks ago, when we're closer to it, I looked at the inventory and there's like 32 houses for sale. And I said, well, guess what? It's going to look a little bit different. Thankfully, he's a regular client, so he understands. For sellers, I find it's really important during your listing consultation to work backwards. So if you think about where their mindset is when you walk into their property, they think this agent's going to come in, they're going to throw a listing agreement at me, the house is going to be up, I'm going to blink, I'm not going to know what happened. They're a little nervous meeting us. So I usually, on the back of my seller packet or the comps or something, I'll flip it over and I'll write, okay, ballpark, we want to be on the market in 3 weeks. It's going to be on Thursday, Friday. I get professional photos, so I need to do that 2-3 days prior. So I'm gonna put that 2-3 days prior. We have this window here to get paperwork done, and we'll do the disclosures. We can do it over the phone or in person. Takes about 20 to 40 minutes, depending on how many questions you have. Before that, we'll prep the house. Maybe I'm sending the stager in, maybe it's just me, whatever that looks like. You know, you've got all this time to clean, here's some staging tips. They tend to feel a little bit better when you go that route, I find. Every seller is different, and eventually I'm going to teach a class on the questions I ask and why I ask them and how that dictates how I take that listing appointment. I go over that with my team, but if anyone has further questions on that, I will always take a phone call about it. So, and you want to talk to them about contract timelines too. If you've had a listing in the last 2 years that has had 70 showings in the first 2 days, you've probably had an agent try to throw a 2-hour deadline at you. So if that is not going to work for your client, I recommend putting it in the broker remarks, a minimum timeline. I know Legacy, if anyone's ever showed any of Jose's listings, they almost all say allow 48 hours for response. Not everyone can make a decision that quickly, and not every seller wants to feel sort of trapped in a quick response time. It can rub them the wrong way. Yeah.
That 48 hours.
So our friends at Legacy, so Jose, who's our OP, he owns, you know, the majority of the 3 market centers. So he has a team. They are one of the largest teams in Stark County, primarily. So almost all of their listings have a note I have seen in the broker remarks that say allow 48 hours for response.
Right.
Yeah. So not every listing will have a minimum response time, but if, you know, it's important to keep in mind, read an offer when it comes in, and it can be something as simple as, you know, I've had an agent send me something like that on a Saturday, and I'm like, hey, I'm driving. I'm gone. I can't give a fair shake at reading this whole thing through. You're going to have to change that. But yeah, so some people will put a really quick expiration. In the crazy market, I mean, they're kind of at the seller's mercy with that. If, you know, sometimes investors will do it. I have an investor in Israel, which is like 8-hour difference. So she's selling a duplex right now, and investors are throwing offers that want a response that day. And I'm like, they're in bed. I can't, can't do too much about it. What is that? Okay. Document expectations. This is important. When you're writing an offer, I know sometimes you're in a rush and you have to throw it together, and maybe there's somebody you work with a lot, you've written 10 offers for them, and they can give you the meat and potatoes of the offer, and they've got the process down. If you are going over certain documents, recommendations, if there's multiple offers, are you writing in an appraisal waiver? Are you writing in non-refundable earnest money? Inspections for due diligence only. Got to go over all of these things with them. Are they waiving inspections, which we of course don't recommend? Want to go through the disclosures with them. Any little note, check mark on there. Lead-based paint disclosure. I have yet to see anyone check yes on that. It's going to happen one of these days. So, and then all of your disclosures, your business disclosures, all of that stuff. You don't want to be in a situation later on where they say you didn't tell them this. I like to, especially if I'm doing multiple offer presentation with a seller, type up all the details and send them to them in an email, because they might forget some conversation that you've had. A couple of years ago, I had a seller call me and say, you didn't tell me this home warranty was on here. Well, they had 5 offers, and we did, you know, but it wasn't his fault that he forgot, because he's got 5 offers to remember. And you want to tell them where they're at stages, in different stages, right? You got 3 days after home inspection to submit requests. I tell them that before in a video and an email. I tell them that when we get there. I tell them that when we're leaving. Something I like to do when we're leaving is I will set a time, because I'm probably going to leave that inspection. I have a bunch of other appointments, and then they start texting me, I want this, I want this, I want this. So I'll say, hey, take the evening. It is 2 p.m. right now. Let's do a call at 11 tomorrow. Get your list together. We'll go through them one by one, and we're going to have a conversation about how to best ask for it. Something like a roof repair in January might not happen. So that might be a credit item, right? Concrete work in January, also probably not going to happen. And you want to set communication expectations. If you don't take calls after 8 p.m. or before 10 a.m., if I'll typically tell my clients, I will always answer the phone. I'm always going to respond. I might be on the other line. I might be with a client. You're never going to not hear from me for more than an hour or two. Please know if I'm not responding right away, I will. And if it's an emergency, please tell me because I'll be at least glancing. Same thing for my team. And that's again, when you want to have the conversation with the client, do they hate texting? Do they prefer phone calls? Are they email people? Do they not ever check their email? That's important to know up front because when they're under contract, that title company is going to email them everything. The lender's going to email them. So if they're not in email, you got to know that. And that's also a good time to learn the dot loop in-person signing. If you haven't learned that, please do. You can meet the seller on your computer and turn it to them and explain to them how to do it. And then moving forward, they have a better idea of it. You can print everything out and have them hand sign it and scan it if you want to do that. It's not my favorite thing to do. Yeah. And if you have clients that don't like email, maybe an older client, a lot of the time will want this, ask them if they want their inspection printed out. They'll love it. So, same thing with multiple people, right? So do you have a spouse that works night shift and one is taking the lead? Are your clients getting a not so amicable divorce and they want to be communicated with separately or together? Do they have kids? Is one parent the primary caretaker? So I've had all kinds of clients. Some of them are like, just call him. I don't know any of this stuff. Just do that. Sometimes they all want to be involved. I want to be involved. So number 6, set contingencies. Have conversations with your buyers. Give them outcomes that are happening right now. What happens if the home, do you have vacations coming up next week? Is your sister getting married out of state? What should we do if a house comes up that I know is going to be perfect? Can we do a virtual showing? Are you okay with that? Or would you prefer seeing it in person and then the house is gone? Know your seller's schedule. Have a conversation with them when you have a listing coming up. Do you have book club on Tuesday nights? Do the kids go to bed at 7 p.m.? I don't know when kids go to bed. I don't know, 8, the one that I help care for is 9. So I know her bedtime. Do they have an infant with a set nap time? Kids have schedules, people have schedules. Do they work from home? What does that look like? And let them know to keep you updated if these things change. So if the house has been on the market for a month and they're throwing their mom a surprise party at their house, that is inevitably when you're going to have like 9 showing requests come in. So remind them that if something comes up and you need me to block this off, you need me to, have a notice rule here. Tenants, minimum 24-hour notice, 24 to 48. Your seller can work out whatever they want to work out with the tenant otherwise. If they work third shift and they can't do showings till 2 p.m., whatever that looks like. But you can't do, a 30-minute showing with a tenant present. And market expectations. This is super important right now. Right? If you are having a listing appointment and they're a month out from today, we're telling those sellers that, here's what's happening right now, but things are changing day to day and it might look a little different in a couple weeks. We can't price a lot of our listings right now and shoot for the stars. We've got to price them appropriately. Despite what you've heard your friends that sold over the summer say, you may be giving a buyer some concessions right now. You know, here's what we're gonna do to market your property. It might not sell in 2 days. It might take a few more than that. Show them how many properties are on market, what the days on market are looking like. Preparing sellers right now is something that is continually coming up. They've known the last couple of years they can throw a house on the market and it'll probably sell. It's a very different conversation. They don't all know when I'm meeting with them that things are looking a little different. So is it going to probably sell at asking, above, below? I have some homes on the market, they went under contract and then things shifted. So their house hit the market and they're not getting what they saw as buyer. So an MLS report, comps. A lot of agents will bring comps to an appointment. I do that, but I don't know exactly what that house is going to comp until I get there. So I go through all those things with them. What do the current listings for sale look like? What does everything look like that's sold recently? What does the days on market look like? How many listings are there? If you're in a city that has 2 other houses for sale, you're probably going to have some more competition than something with 40. All right. Set expectations seamlessly with your KW Tech. This is a picture of Command. If you're not using Command, use some kind of CRM. Okay. There are 7,000 people in my team CRM. Can the 10 of us call 7,000 people? I don't even want to try that. We can set call reminders, but they're all on drip campaigns specific to their needs. They're all on property alerts. Some of them are closed clients and they are on a monthly home valuation. They get a text, an email, a card every year on their home anniversary. Any kind of way that you can leverage technology to do something to help you. So if you're using Command, that's going to be a smart plan. You can use as much or as little of that as you want. KW has apps. We've got Command, we have apps. Our office has OpsCity. We have Dotloop. So contract to close. I know we use something called Folio. There's other things that other agents use. There's one called Next. I think it's NEXST possibly. So what I love about Folio is it has a shared timeline. So it goes to our buyer, seller, renter, whatever, and it has all of the due dates and everything on it. And it's really, really helpful because they always want to know what's coming next and they're anxious. This is a whole new process for them. All right. 3 steps for gaining referrals. This statistic that I spoke about, the 26% of people that remember who you are, I want to beat that. I think everyone in this room and on this Zoom call wants to beat that as well. So there's 3 things. You want to provide value, ask for help, and there's a reward. How do you do that? If you haven't even put in an offer on a house, should you ask for reviews and referrals? Hopefully you're already providing value. So if you've done a buyer consultation, you've answered questions, you've taught them something new, they feel really comfortable moving forward. They're going to go to work the next day and tell Sally in the cubicle next to them. And maybe her or her sister are looking to buy or sell a house, right? Always ask for referrals. They don't know necessarily to refer business to you. I can't tell you how many times I meet with a client and they're like, oh yeah, my parents have been looking for a house. You know, they just live down the road and their agent said this or this. Mom and dad did not refer that agent to their kid. Why? Was it them or was it me? Did they just not think of it? Did they not tell them that that was a thing to do? Out of state referrals, always remind your clients that you can find them an agent anywhere, right? I have a referral under contract in Boulder, Colorado right now. One of my investors that has bought 3 properties here, she's ready to branch out to Airbnb out there. And that's pretty cool because they've got a totally different market. So I'm learning about it. I get a referral. I get to know an agent. And it's a really cool house. So. And that's what the asking for help is, by the way. You're not asking your clients for help, but you're letting them know your business is based on referrals. And you're so proud of yourself that 80% of your business is referral based. That means your clients are happy, they're coming back, they're sending people to you. And reward it. You can do that however you want. Maybe you shout them out on social media, you email them, you call them, send them a card with $5 to Starbucks. We do that. So we'll send out card that has a thank you for your referral. If you're not using send out cards, I'm a big fan of them, but we have something little. So you can do like little cookies, brownies, chocolate covered pretzels, send a Starbucks card, a handwritten note, Starbucks, Amazon, you can email that, you can text it, nice and easy. And it doesn't have to cost money. So yes.
Have you had a referral from someone lives someplace, they want to buy a house here?
Yeah, so I've had, there is someone I went to summer camp with when I was 11, a couple of years ago. They were living out of state and moving to Columbus. They asked me for a referral. So yeah, it happens. You have people who are, you know, maybe they live elsewhere, they work elsewhere, they're moving back.
They want to buy the house unseen.
Oh, like here? Yeah.
Yes.
I've had a lot of people relocating do that, especially in the early days of COVID. A lot of my investors do that. So I'll usually go and do FaceTime showing. And then I'll make a folder in Google Drive and put a bunch of photos and videos in there so they can refer back to it. And I always take pictures of the major systems, the hot water tank tag, anything I think might be concerning. But yeah, it happens. People do it. My client that's buying that house in Colorado did not see that in person. She did not see the condo she's buying downtown in person, or the house that they just closed on in person until the home inspection because she was on a temporary contract in DC. That's not for everyone. You're not going to have not everyone's going to be comfortable with that. But some out of town clients, it's what they choose to do. It's what they have to do. I had a client moving from the UK 2 years ago now. They couldn't fly over here just to look at a house. So we did a virtual showing there. So it happens. And when you want to talk to that client about the difference there, you know, what that's going to look like versus seeing it in person. Okay. You want to ask for reviews. You want them all to look like this, right? Let them know that if they need a contractor, if they need a recommendation, you can do that. Has anyone reached out to a moving company? Can you guys recommend each other? I've seen agents that will partner with, so like my team is very widespread in our coverage area, but if you're really in one spot, you could partner with a pizza place. Maybe you're like, hey, I send 2 larges on moving day and here's a coupon and I know the owner and he's a great guy. And you can kind of work with each other that way, get creative with it. Are you a local expert? Can you make a restaurant guide? Can you, when they close, provide 3? Are they moving out of state? What are they going to need if they're coming from elsewhere? A hair salon, a new nail tech, that would be a priority for me. You know, do they need a new primary care physician? You know, anything that you can provide value for. If I were moving to a new area, I'm going to need a vet. I'm going to need all kinds of stuff. People read reviews. So it's 2022. If you get off the phone with a prospective client, one of the first things they're probably going to do is Google you. Those reviews are going to come up. If you're an agent, your Zillow profile, your realtor.com profile are going to come up, probably your agent website. Hopefully, Not a bunch of comments that you've made on Yelp complaining about places. That's not going to be their favorite thing to see. They want to see the good things, right? And you can start locally with that. Was your first client a family member? I'll leave you a review for sure. When my first client was a family member. Did you sell a house to a friend? All you have to do is ask. So it's been a little bit since I did this, but there was a point where I would regularly post on my social media channels. Who are my local business owners? Who needs a 5-star review? And we obviously can't be illegitimate about this, right? So they can't leave you a glowing review on the house you sold them if you didn't. But maybe they own a pet store or something. You've been there and you've seen it and you can leave a review. They're probably going to recommend you on the back end for that. I've spent a lot of time leaving Google reviews. And even people that maybe you didn't have that conversation, but you know they own a business or you go to that business, they will be happy about it. How do you ask? Here's a template for it. Your purchase or selling experience exceeded your expectations. Would you be so kind as to give me a brief review? Also, I'd like your permission to use this in my advertising or marketing. Put your own spin on that and ask for it in a way that's going to best fit that client. Again, if they are not a technological person, send them a link. So we've actually got I have a sticker with a QR code that links to where you can leave us a review. And I have, everyone that I sell to typically will get a bottle of champagne with a custom sticker on it. And I put that QR code, they can scan it and leave us a review. Be mindful too, when you're asking for a review, if you send them that and they're in the middle of moving, they're probably going to forget. So do it like a week later, or right before closing or during the process. Seller reviews are important. You have a seller, they are going to have those questions. Are you selling them quickly? Are you getting money in their pocket? Are you marketing it well? Were they impressed by your service? And set realistic expectations on communication there. I have a team. So when I meet with a seller, I let them know that yes, I have a team, but you are my client. You're going to have communication with my admin, and you're not probably going to see too much of the team members unless there's an open house or unless I need assistance because I'm out of town or ill, right? If you are like a buyer's agent, seller's agent, whatever on a team, let them know they're going to have an admin. Let them know you have a team lead that they may hear from and that you have the support of. Does anyone have anything they want to see in some of their reviews that you want to put out into the world?
Where would they reviews online?
Yep. So if you have a Google profile, Facebook business, realtor.com, Zillow, any of those sites. I have an account with Testimonial Tree. I think it's like, I don't know, I think I pay annually. I don't think it's a whole lot per month. But you can input all of your reviews into Testimonial Tree that you get on other sites, and it will populate on realtor.com. Yeah, and you can have clients. So our QR code leads to Testimonial Tree. So you can actually input it. Don't put false ones in there. But same thing, if you ask for a review and someone just emails it to you, you can put that in the Testimonial Tree. Buyer reviews, same thing. Did they find the house fast? Did you negotiate on their behalf? That's a big deal. Okay. Did it go smooth? Were they impressed by the service? Was your admin, knock it out of the park? Were you there every step of the way, checking in whether they needed you or not? You're going to have clients that are kind of hands off and their financing is really smooth. You don't want 2 weeks to go by where they don't hear from you. At least shoot them a text, say, hey, I haven't really heard from your lender, but no news is good news. And I know everything's good, but please let me know if you have any questions. Here's what's going to come up next. You guys are quiet today. Does anyone have an aha?
I think there's
Yeah.
lots to take away from so far, but I think, really the biggest one has been like, your sellers and buyers and, what they want for communication wise and, kind of almost holding their hand along the way.
Yeah.
Or to grow the house and stuff like that.
Yeah, you want to hold their hand. You want to let them know that you are there to provide a service and help them. You want to listen to them. They want to feel listened to. People love talking about themselves. Okay, and take that hint when you walk into their house. Do they have kids? Do they have pets? Do they have, a passion for, what do they have decor? Do they have a collage of sunflower pictures? Whatever that looks like.
Yeah, I think that's important, like you said, just keeping in communication, even without, if there isn't any updates, just keeping in communication throughout the
Yeah.
transaction. So they know, like, I didn't forget about you, and I didn't just like become your best friend just for the sake of the transaction, like I
Yeah.
truly genuinely care about you.
And sometimes I get a call from a possible client and they say something like, my agent's not sending me anything. And then I go, okay, well, what are you looking for? Are they looking for something where the price point just doesn't match up where they're looking? Are they looking in a neighborhood that exclusively has 3-bedroom Cape Cods and they want a 6-bedroom ranch? Are they looking for acreage? So you want clients like that want something specific. You want to set realistic expectations. Tell them if what they're looking for doesn't match up, first of all. But if they're looking for, my aunt right now, they're looking for their dream retirement home, right? And I don't think she's going to stray, but if she were not my aunt, right? If she were not my aunt and family, they still get check-ins. So they want a ranch, they want to be in Medina and they want some land. She wants a garden, right? That's not going to come up every single day. So if you have a client like that, you at least want to check in. I have clients on the west side right now that are looking for something they can either build an in-law, something that has, that doesn't come up every day. So you want to check in. Hey, I wanted to say hi. I've been checking the MLS every day. What you want is so special that it's not coming up every day, but I want to let you know I'm here. And if anything changes what you're looking for, let me know. All right, I'm gonna get into buyer needs, which I have been talking about anyway. So this chart here, these are the largest components of what you're gonna do for a buyer, right? So a little more than half, you're gonna find the right home to purchase. That's what they want from you at the end of the day. You're gonna help them negotiate. You're gonna help them with price negotiations and then other. Sometimes you're writing an offer and they're like, well, whatever you advise me to do. Well, as their agent, I can't just say like, hey, okay, right for 200,000, I'm going to plug this in and we're good to go. You want to go through it with them, right? Call the agent. You know what? This house has been on the market for 3 weeks. They haven't done a price reduction. Maybe we can get some seller concessions, but let's talk about that. Let's talk about the difference between concessions and a price reduction. We're going to talk to your lender about it, see what's going to benefit you more. But this is our primary graph here, what you're going to deal with working as a buyer's agent. And you're going to have a preference and you're going to feel a little bit more confident in one than the other. Something that has become sort of apparent when you're working with buyers versus working with sellers. The fun part is you get to be their best friend. You are fighting for them. You are looking out for their best interest. There may be some bad news in there, but you're looking at houses and you're negotiating. When you're working a seller, you might have to give them bad news. You might have to tell them that their house isn't worth what they think it is, or the updates that they made are so custom that they're not going to be for everyone. That's not a fun conversation to have. And sometimes it does not go super well. So you need to know how to do it. Buyer needs analysis. So I've got a survey, I've got a list of things I go through over the phone. But you want to have these discussions with them, and it's important. Who's living in this house? Do you have young kids? Do you have pets? Do you need a fenced-in yard? Is your mom moving in? Do you need a finished basement? Do you have kids that are 20 and they're gonna be out of the house soon? What does that look like? What are non-negotiables? I'm gonna give you a note on that. You will have discussions with clients that are non-negotiable. Maybe they're 8 months out. Maybe they absolutely need a fence yard or to be in a certain school district, or they need a finished basement. And then the next week, they're gonna send you a house that has none of those things. It's gonna happen. So be clear that that they know what the non-negotiables are. And I've had it happen. I'm gonna pick on Alicia because she's on my team. She wrote a contract last week for clients that initially reached out to me saying they wanted to buy in February. It is October. So sometimes they're gonna tell you that they are gonna hold off on looking for a little bit, and then 2 days later, they want to see a house. It's gonna happen. So that's why you got to get to know them, you know, when they're serious about that or not. Top 5 needs, something they really want.
Question, like,
Yeah.
when they do that and say they wanna hold off for a little bit, like, how often do you keep in communication? Because they say, I wanna hold off for a
Yeah.
month.
I don't turn their alerts off unless they're like, turn the alerts off. I might be like, hey, I know you want to wait a little bit, but like, what if I just set it to like a couple times a week in case you want to have a look? I won't bother you about it. You know, feel free to browse as much as you want. Check in with them once in a while, you know, if they're a year out or so. It's it depends on the buyer. So I did some coaching with Ryan Serhant. I did his coaching program for a little bit because we are all students and we are never done learning. And he says something that I kind of like, and I follow up with, and he says, follow up until they buy or die. And then I've added or unsubscribe because we can't call them if they're on the do not call list and they don't want to be called. And we also can't resubscribe them if they've unsubscribed to listing alerts. But I've had clients in my CRM that have bought a house with someone else years ago, but I've been following up with them. So they called me to sell it, or they've been in the CRM for years. Yes.
I had a buyer who accidentally unsubscribed and then gave me verbal permission recently to.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. And I've had accidental.
Like, did you mean to do that?
Yeah, I've had accidental unsubscribes too. And that's one beautiful thing about the CRM. If you guys have ever had someone who's unsubscribed from MLS alerts and you try to resubscribe them, they have to reach out to the MLS to resubscribe. You can't just click a button. Yeah, so follow up until they buy or die. You might not hear from them for a long time. I sold a $900,000 house over the summer cash. They were in my CRM and I had never heard from them for probably 7 months.
Wow.
Called me. They said, hey, we're ready. I showed them their family 3 houses. That was it. You just never know. You might have someone in your CRM that's listening to all the advice that you're sending over, and maybe they don't buy, but someone they know does. So ask them if they want a new house or an old house. You'll have clients that are like, I don't want a house that was built like 1998 or later. Move-in condition, are they willing to do some work? If they're willing to do work, is it cosmetic? Or are they willing to take a wall down or rip some cabinets out? Do they have realistic expectations on that? So we're still dealing with supply chain issues and increased things, increased cost. So they have to keep that in mind as well. Even if it needs work, are you willing to wait a little bit? Willing to pay a little bit more? What do you want people to say when they visit your house? Any specific features you need to make your house feel like home? Do you require accessibility? Do you need a ranch? Stairs okay? Do you need first floor laundry? Pay attention when you're asking these questions too, because there's going to be a different viewpoint from a buyer that tells you something like, I need it to be in this price point. I need it to be less than 20 minutes from work. I need it to be this distance from school. I need to be able to walk to Target. They're very analytical. If you tell someone and you're like, I need this 2-story great room for my Christmas tree, and I need this big island that all the kids can get around. Well, they're more of an emotional buyer. So those are gonna be your buyers that might send you something that's way out of their price range. Or maybe they said that they were not open to doing work and this house needs a full rehab. Okay. Buyer's world and buyer's life change. Their needs can change. Their lives can change, their world can change. Did they unexpectedly have triplets? That's gonna change their needs, right? That's gonna change their world and their lives, right? Yeah. Revisit their needs analysis regularly. It might change. They might say they need something brand new, and then down the line, they say, well, maybe not.
Oh, I got a question.
Yeah.
When you go through the expectations at the beginning of what they're looking for and it's not realistic, what's the way that you say basically you need to go up in your price or add areas?
So feel the client out a little bit at how you can have this conversation. But I find if I say something like, I have to be honest with them, right? Otherwise, I'm going to waste their time. I'm going to waste my time. I can't say, well, I know you want to walk into this Mercedes and dealership and you've got $300. It might take a little bit to find a $300 Mercedes. No, you have to say, listen, I have never seen a Mercedes that is $300.
Okay.
So and if they're very off, that is a bigger conversation. But I might say, I see, here's your budget, here's what you're looking for. I work in this area all the time. And there's just not a lot of new houses there. So I need to set a realistic expectation for you, if we're working together, that this is going to be few and far between. And if that's okay with you and you have the time to wait, we'll go that route. Otherwise, if you want to expand your search a little bit, I can tell you where they're going to have that new house. Alicia has clients looking in Cleveland Heights right now. Not a lot of new construction over there. But that's what they're used to. So that's a struggle. And that's a conversation. But yeah, and it depends, someone might, especially a brand new first time home buyer, they get approved. They might not know what price points and what homes look like in areas. They might not know what that range is going to look like for them. All right, we've talked a little bit about this, tough conversations. You get into real estate and you think about house hunters and how you walk through all these pretty houses and it's all good. That's not always what it looks like. We have a lot of days like that. They might be going through a divorce, a life change, a change in their health. Maybe they lost someone. They lost a partner that they never thought they would. Maybe they lost their job that they never thought they would. Maybe their their expectations are not in line with reality. Right? You need to tell them when they begin the house hunting process. I have a page in our buyer consult. It's like the 7 deadly sins. Okay. For some reason, when people are buying a house, they always want to buy a car. Tell them not to do that. Yeah. Don't go finance furniture. I know furniture is on back order and that's very, very tempting. Don't close your credit cards. Just keep them paid down, right? If you're getting married in the middle of your escrow period, tell us. Don't quit your job. Why you don't quit your job? Because they're going to do a verification of employment like the day before closing. So the lender's going to catch you. If you're changing jobs, even if you're getting a raise, if you are getting money from your mother, if you have mattress money you're going to put in the bank, don't do that. Talk to your lender. There's a way to get money from elsewhere. And it is not like Venmo or PayPal, because they're going to want an explanation for it. It's got to be sourced. It can't just come from thin air, right? And I have a lot of younger clients, especially their parents will be planning to gift them money and it's all in good faith, but they just don't know that there's a way to do it and there's a right and a wrong way to do it. Seasoning periods. You know, did they get, you know, do they have a jar of cash at home and they want to put it in the bank? It's got to be there for a certain amount of days before you can use it. It's common with, yes,
How can parents give them money to purchase a home? It has to be for a certain period of time.
well, I would talk to the lender, see what that looks like. They probably have to fill out a gift letter and they have to transfer it a certain way.
So even with a conventional loan, they can get gift money?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Typically, yep. You also want to have, you know, are they a tipped employee, server, bartender, hairstylist? Because they're probably not claiming what they're making. And if they are putting a lot more money in the bank, that's going to be a red flag to the lender. Self-employed, yes. Your self-employed people might be making $10,000 a year. Right? They might not be able to qualify for a loan. You have to be self-employed for usually 1 to 2 years before you can buy. And if they are making $10,000 a year, they might need to do a bank statement loan, which is a totally different process. And it's not going to be 3% down. You want to show them homes based on their needs analysis. Use your own judgment here. You ever see on a TV show where they're like, usually those rehab shows where they show them this big, beautiful house, and then they're like, you can't afford this. Let's fix one up. I've never done that, but I've had some clients where I'm tempted to do that. But yeah, you want to have that conversation. And if something doesn't meet their needs, point it out in a nice way. They might tell you it's fine, you know, school district is one. I had clients recently tell me that we have no make or break here. We have no must-haves other than we need to be in this school district. The first house they wanted to see wasn't in that school district. And I said, hey, this is beautiful. It's not in this school district. And they said, well, that's fine.
And they bought it.
No, they actually went under contract with a contingency, put their house on market, and it wasn't selling and they pulled it off the market.
So regarding that, you should, like, what's the best practice, I guess? At the beginning, sign them up for a search based on exactly what they say, and then as they stray from it, like, reduce, like, enlarge the criteria. Like, if they say they need a master on the
Yeah.
floor, and then they like look at houses that don't have that, then I remove that from the criteria, but should you continue to obey the original?
Yeah, I mean, you can adjust it. I like the past couple of years, I was telling clients to, you know, if your max budget's 300,000, let's not look past like 280, 285, because you're going to be in a bidding war. Right now, you might be able to put it a little bit over what their budget is, because maybe they've got some power to negotiate. And I usually know if people, I don't know, you can kind of get a sense. Sometimes they tell you something's a deal breaker and you know that they are just going to bend on something if it's the right house. Fences are a big one. People tell you they need a fence and then they're willing to build one. All right. This is important, right? Show the best properties for your buyer that you have thoroughly screened in advance to meet their criteria. Read those disclosures, read the broker remarks. Let them know if you think something might not be a fit. We're going to become experts at analyzing listing photos. If they need room for a king bed in all of their bedrooms and you know that 8x8 looks real nice, but it's just not going to work, tell them. They're going to appreciate it. If they want to see if they can do it anyway, that's on them. It's going to save you time because you're going to have clients that send you 20 houses and you're going to comb through all of them and point a couple things out, and some of them are going to fall off. Financing type is a big one. You have an FHA or VA buyer and it says as is, buyer to assume point of sale violations, seller to make no repairs. That might not work out. And that's an important conversation to have up front with buyers that have different types of loans, or they're unable to take on repairs, or maybe they are very handy and open to making repairs, but their loan type just doesn't allow for that.
So I've done like 3 FHA, and what I do is I comb through the list of results, and then I send them a more narrowed result, like maybe 20 houses that I know will go FHA, and then I only have them look at those.
Yeah, you can do that. And I would recommend doing that. It's not gonna always stop them from like sending you a Zillow listing.
If it doesn't say, then I call the listing agent and ask if it'll go.
Yeah, and you can also, like, if they send you a house and it looks pretty much fine from what you can tell, and it says cash or conventional, but it's been listed 40 days, call. Will they consider an FHA or VA offer? My buyer's a plumber, if there's something going, he might help. You're acting in their best interest. You also want to have that conversation with them. It's been a tough couple of years, and people with FHA and VA loans, or people who can't pay an extra 50,000 out of pocket, they're gonna have some options over the next couple of months. No, have your MLS listing. I don't personally always print them out. Some people do. Some people look at HomeSnap. Some people bring an iPad. Some people send them to them. I oftentimes will like text them the listing information or email it prior to showing. Some people really like printing them out. Again, read your buyer. If they're going to really value and love that MLS printout, do it. Answer location questions. Are they from out of town and they don't want to be on a main road and they don't know they sent you a house on a main road? Know about the property and the area. We're licensed to sell in the whole state. It does not mean I can drive down to Columbus that I've been to twice and know where the local restaurants are. Include comps. We haven't had to do that a whole lot the last couple of years. We're gonna have to do that moving forward a lot more. They're gonna ask comps. This is an important conversation to have with buyers and sellers. And something to tell sellers also when they want to sell a house and maybe they're a little bit off on price. I will tell them, what kind of questions did you ask when you bought this house? Oh, sometimes they're like, I don't know. Sometimes they're like, are the appliances included? And I go, how long has it been on the market? One of those questions. And they'll go, yes. Why? Well, because if it's been on the market a long time, light bulb. So if you're having that conversation that we want to minimize days on market, and that's why I want to price properly. If you're overpriced and it's been on the market a long time, that might cost you more. You want to have that conversation with buyers when you present comps as well. Is this house priced really high? Is this price comparative to recent sales? Does it look like a good deal? And point out potential issues and concerns. I've heard horror stories. Go to your inspections, learn from your inspectors, go to other people's inspections if you don't have any going on. I can go into a house and point out things that I think are going to be an issue. Federal Pacific electric panels,
Yeah.
potential mold. We have to say potential. It might be mold all day long, but we have not swabbed it or sent it to a lab. Your inspector will do the same thing. Is the wall bowing? Do you see a bunch of cracks in all of the doorways? Are the windows old? Do they have a hot water tank from 1986? Do you know how to check the age on a hot water tank? We can only ballpark furnaces. Point these things out. There's agents that don't care and don't take that time. And then their buyer goes under contract and they hit an inspection. And this house has HVAC hot water tank from the 80s. It's going to need a roof within 2 years. They're overwhelmed. They don't want the house. There's going to be some things that we can't see. I'm not climbing into an attic. There's knob and tube up there. I might not see it. I'm not snaking drains. I don't know if there's a tree root in it. There's going to be things I can't see, but point out things, educate them. They're going to appreciate it. And they don't always know. I was 21 years old when I bought my first house in the recession. It was a condo. It was a foreclosure. And like 8 months later, I called my dad and I said, Dad, the furnace is going, what do I do? And he was like, well, when's the last time you changed the filter? And I was like, the what? What do you mean? And he's like, the furnace filter. And I was like, I don't know her. That thing was as black as this Yeti when I pulled it out, and was probably there for the 9 months that this foreclosure was vacant. And then as long as I had been there, to this day, I have a reminder on my phone for that, but I didn't know. So you have to keep in mind, they're not gonna know everything. So a buyer walking through isn't gonna know how to see if a roof is newer or how to check the age on the hot water tank. Have that conversation with them. Hey, this thing's 10 years old. It might last you 10, it might last you 2 years. Get a home warranty if you can. All right. Showing homes means agent interaction. Your first showing can be kind of scary. You don't know, there's a lot of weird locks and lock boxes out there. I've had agents call me crying because the home alarm was beeping and they panicked about it. Yeah, the cops show up. Does it have a Supra? Look at that. If you don't have your Supra key set up, is someone gonna be home? You want to prepare your clients for that, because 9 out of 10 times they feel real weird about somebody being home. Prepare your sellers for that too. Like, please stay out of the buyer's way. If you've never shown a for sale by owner that walked you through the whole house and gave you every tiny detail of it, it can be very off-putting to a potential buyer because they want to picture themselves there. You can always ask the agent questions first. Again, will they take an FHA offer? Do you have 10 offers on this? Because to be honest with you, I don't think my buyer can compete with that. Anything you can tell me about the seller's needs? Do they need 60 days? Do they need extended possession? Do they need to sell as soon as possible? Yeah.
During, these multiple offers, how will you go in with that?
So how I will usually have that conversation with the buyer is I will say, you like the house, when we leave, I'm gonna call this agent. Hopefully they pick up the phone immediately and I can have that conversation before I get back to write it. I'm gonna ask them those questions. You know, I'm gonna submit an offer. Do you have a current deadline? Are you able to share if you have multiple offers? Because technically they have to have permission from the seller. They may be very open with you. They might say, you know, we have no offers. We've had a bunch of showings over the last 3 weeks. Send whatever you can. Or they'll say, we have 15 offers. The deadline's in a half hour. And, you know, just give it your all. Because to be honest with you, not one of these is at listing price. They're all above. They might give you information like that. And you're going to advise your seller based on that. If it's in multiple offers, you got to tell them we probably don't stand a chance unless we get really aggressive. And here are some ways that we can get aggressive. And we've learned all of those tricks. If they don't have a lot of offers, have the conversation with them. You know, should we try and get a lower price? Should we try to get some concessions? Should we do something else, right?
What is aggressive?
It depends on the situation. So if there's 2 offers on it, that might look a little different. And the umbrella and the area and the comps are going to depend on that too, right? Are all the homes selling way over asking for cash? Are they all 5,000 over asking? In the spring, I had clients that went like 80 something thousand above list with an indefinite appraisal gap. It's not everyone's cup of tea. They did, they got it. And it appraised, thankfully.
Wow.
That was a scary thing to write, but at the end of the day, is the house going to appraise for $0? Hopefully not. You know, so, and it depends on if they've got 17 offers, that's where we're pulling out appraisal gap coverage, non-refundable earnest money. Maybe they're waiving inspections, which again, we don't recommend. Maybe they're doing it for due diligence only. Maybe they are doing the inspection within 3 days, you know, whatever that looks like. And if you guys are ever in that situation and you need some help navigating it and what to recommend, call somebody, you know, call somebody in the office and call a team leader. You also don't want to push them. You want to be honest with them, but you don't want to say, hey, you got to go 100,000 above list. If they can't afford that and they don't want to commit to that, we can't make them. There's other houses out there. The right one always works out. I tell my clients all the time, My current home in 2018, there were 6 offers on it. At the time, I had never seen that many offers on a house. So I went 6,000 above list. That was a lot. You guys, I dream about 2018 all the time. I went 6,000 above list and I came in second. Well, a couple days later, that first buyer's job transfer fell through. I got a call, right? Always hold backup. Ask if you can hold backup. If your buyer really loves it, hold a back offer. Yeah, I tell them all the time, the right one works out. Not only was I second on my house, I had offered on 3 others before it that I didn't get, that I wouldn't have liked as much. Share that story with them if you want to. So it's going to depend, and this is it's going to change over time. But here's your little home tour toolkit. Sanitizing wipes. I keep like some booties and a towel in my car, like an old towel. So if it's, you know, a foot of snow outside and you need to wipe it up really quick before you go. I have had days for showings where I have thrown a snow shovel in there, because if we had a storm last night and they haven't plowed the walkway yet, well, you either gotta deal with it or you might have to do that. This says map. I don't carry a map. I have GPS. I don't know. Couple of Walmart bags. I have had 2 children vomit at showings at this point, personally. Mom always likes when you're like, hey, I got an old Walmart bag in the car. Here you go. Get out, leave. Flashlight, especially as winter's hitting. A light is really, really helpful. Even a key ring light. It's helpful when you're opening the lockbox and trying to get the key. I am super blind. So have a flashlight, have a bigger flashlight. Those utilities might be off, especially if it's an investment property. It's 7 p.m. It's dark outside. You can't see anything. So level, I always carry a tape measure. I have a tape measure with a level on it. I'm going to measure doorways. You can measure appliance openings. Bring those to home inspections and final walkthroughs. They're going to love it. And tell them like, hey, I have a tape measure. I have a laser one too, if they need to measure like a wall. But tell them, hey, please measure the doorways. Make sure your furniture fits. Measure anything you have to order. Pen, notepad, paper goods are good to have. You never know when you're going to show up early to a showing and you really have to pee and there is no toilet paper and there is no soap. And that is not a fun situation to be in. So have tissues, hand sanitizer. You never know. You might even have a client like open a cabinet and it's like just dirty and sticky and you have hand sanitizer on you. Graphite for sticky locks. That's fun. I've never used that, but I do typically have a hot beverage in the winter. And if the lockbox is frozen shut, I pour that on it. Yeah, hand wipes, masks. I still have clients that prefer a mask. Ask them if they need it for sellers. Ask them if they want you to wear it as buyer. That's up to your discretion. I personally will respect their wishes. Business cards, umbrellas, keep an umbrella and a spare. You're going to show up to a showing. It's going to be pouring. You're going to have it and you're going to offer it to your client. Beverages and snacks, that's more for you. Always have water, stay hydrated. You're going to have days where you're on the road for hours and hours. Entertainment for kids. I don't think I have them on me. I have pop-it keychains. I have stickers. That is especially fun for open houses. You have someone walk in, they've got 18 toddlers and they're opening all the cabinets and slamming things, but you have pop-its and that is where their attention goes. I just buy like a big thing on Amazon. It's like bubble wrap, but they love them. They're like all the rage right now. Stickers. Yeah, you can get packs of stickers for cheap. You can print out coloring things. Use your discretion with that. If they have an 18-month-old that will put stickers on the seller's refrigerator or on their car, maybe don't give them stickers, but just little things. I'll bring snacks to open houses for kids that are maybe like not Doritos, pretzels, like things that are not going to make a mess. I only bring little water bottles. to open houses. Some people bring coffee, but I don't want to give anything that anyone's going to spill on accident because I don't want to be in trouble for that. All right, safety first. If you have not met me, this is something I am passionate about. Okay, it's not going to be in this. It's not going to be in this presentation, but if you are an ACAR member and you don't have the Forewarn app, download it. Get your code for it. You can run any name and number in there and it will give you everything, past addresses, their current vehicle, if they have, you know, speeding tickets down to, hi Jill. I had a potential renter recently with kidnapping and murder charges.
Oh, yeah.
Forewarn, yes. I think so. Let me. FOREWARN. I'll be straight up honest with you guys. I had a past client stalk me for a year.
What?
I did. I didn't know at first and I didn't. I sold him a house, he flipped it, had me come look at it. When he was gonna relist it, listed it with another agent, and I said, that's it, like, we're done. I don't play that game. If I sell you the flip and listing it, done. So didn't hear from him for months. He showed up at our office with letters, gifts. They were very weird, right? Thankfully, I have law enforcement in the family. And my brother said, I've worked with this before. This is the initial reach out. This person's probably stalking you. And then he came to an office event. He had a Home Depot van. We don't know what his plans were with it, but we can only assume the worst. So showed up, the police took him away. But anyway, when they pulled him over, ran his plates, I was able to file a protection order, but that is a piece of paper, but he had other stalking charges. So long story short, if I had forewarned, I would have seen that and I may not have been in that situation. I have also a bracelet. I don't have it on today. I meant to grab it before I left, but I didn't. It is called a flare, FLARE. If you've got little girls, like anybody can have this. It looks like a regular bangle or beaded bracelet. It's got a button on it. You press it once and I believe you get a phone call and you can pick the phone call. So even if you're like an uncomfortable Uber, something like that, you can get this phone call and it's a whole conversation. A couple times I think if it's twice, it notifies like the 5 contacts you've selected and they can call you, you know, and they'll get that text and they know to call you and pretend to be your mom, tell you to get home right now. That's even good if you're at an open house and you're feeling a little weird. Hey, I got a phone call coming in. Online. And then if you press it 3 times, it alerts the authorities. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Anybody, get it for kids, your grandkids, your nieces, nephews, get it for yourself. But home showing safety, remember, at the end of the day, if we don't vet somebody and we can only vet them as much as we can vet them, our job is to meet strangers at empty houses. We do that many times a week. Our jobs are considered some of the most dangerous jobs out there because of that. And agents have been hurt, right? So you need to be mindful, pay attention to your surroundings. When I was newer in the industry, I had an agent tell me it's not the first time you show them a house, it's the 5th time. That's when you let your guard down. These people are smart, right? So yeah, you always want to, I always walk behind my clients, and you will have clients that try to be gentlemen and they go walk ahead and I say, no, I have to walk behind you. It's not that I don't trust you, but that is the rule. Park in the street if you can. Don't let anyone trap you in the driveway. If you're at an open house and you have every single door open and unlocked, that makes me nervous because you don't know where someone can come in, right? They can, yeah. Note where all the exits are. You don't want someone to come and make you uncomfortable and you don't know how to get out of the house. And trust your gut. I have had 2 times in my career. The first time I had a weird gut feeling. I was at the showing early. I was out of the car. I was leaning against it, texting. I don't know if this was the person I was meeting or not, but I looked up and there was a truck coming at me with somebody, door open, hands out. Yeah. So, and maybe this was a fluke. You don't always think in these situations. I ran to the passenger side of my car and got in. Don't ask me why I did that. I don't know. I was just freaked out. There was another situation where I was just really uncomfortable with the conversation and I was on my way to the showing and I just turned around and went home. And that person never called me to find out why I didn't show up. So trust your gut, use your instincts. If you need to bring a friend, bring another agent or an affiliate or a lender to open houses with you. Alicia was uncomfortable recently. I'm picking on her again. She was showing a house and literally just two people were staring at her, making her really uncomfortable. So she called another team member and he went with her. So, and I don't call our office, call our leadership. They're going to find you someone. After what happened to me happened, not only was ACAR offering me places to work, the whole office was supportive. Janice got us all together and we took CCW classes. I mean, they were on it, and I had an open house that weekend and no one on my team could come with me and someone was there. And it was all the way in, Jill's gonna know what I'm talking about because I'm half in Jackson Township, but that's Canton area, and this person drove over an hour to help. So no one's gonna leave you in an uncomfortable situation. So definitely, again, park in the street if you can. Supra is safe. It's more common. Supra is a lot more popular. South Akron area, Stark County, Warren, you're going to see a lot more Supras they're gaining popularity up here.
They used to be popular.
Yeah, so a lot of people couldn't figure them out. So that's been a thing. They're expensive. But yeah, get the bracelet, share your location with someone. I have members of my team. If they're feeling a little weird about someone they're meeting, they share their location with me and I know to keep an eye on it. And I know to check in 20 or so minutes if I don't hear from them. They know I'm on call. They know our admin Sarah is on call. If that happens, Sarah has my location at all times. I can trust her with that. So, and sometimes I get a call from her and she's like, you've been at this spot for a really long time. Are you okay? I walked into a listing appointment a few months ago and the person living in the home was very depressed and was upstairs telling me to walk into the house. The house was a mess. None of the lights were on. It just felt weird. Yeah, it ended up being okay. But I texted her and I said, I need you to call me in 5 minutes. She did. So, tell your clients what to expect. So I will tell them what my car looks like if I'm meeting them for the first time, which prompts them to tell me what their car looks like, right? And, ask, are you bringing anyone with you? If you're showing up meeting one person and they show up with like their dad and all of their uncles and you're like, I didn't know this was happening. Yeah. Health options, have a COVID conversation with them. It is surging again. My father had heart issues over the weekend and was turned away from an ER. So ask them, remind them if you've been exposed. I got family to go home to. I was supposed to spend 2 minutes on that. I apologize. I'm real passionate about safety. But yeah, if you guys, the bracelet, the app, email me, text me. Safety is important. Have mace on you, whatever. Yeah, have a taser. They actually have, going back on a flashlight, I have one. I don't have it with me. There are tasers that are flashlights. Do you have one? Yeah, so they don't know it's a taser. Sometimes if a client asks me for it, I'll be like, I'm sorry, this is actually a taser and I'm not gonna can't let you hold it. Yeah, they have some that look just like flashlights. All right. Yeah, so I won't spend a ton of time on it, but safety is really, really important. Trust your gut, be aware of your surroundings at all times. Alrighty. Your goal is to sell a home, not show a house. Pay attention to their body language. Don't show homes that they don't like. Something I run into quite a lot. is there's a lot of areas that have these older like bungalow Cape Cod homes. A lot of them lack a dining room. If your client needs a dining room and they keep sending you the same house, tell them none of these are going to have a dining room. They need a walk-in closet, whatever that looks like. Each showing should bring you closer to getting an offer. They should be learning along the way if things are a fit or if they're not.
Well, some of them just go crazy. I mean, I had a customer that wanted a ranch. And they kept wanting to see splits. That was crazy.
That happens sometimes. You'll have people that hate split levels and bi-levels. If you're looking in some spots, Painesville, for instance, and they don't want to train in their backyard, look at the aerial view because there's like a 50% chance there's a train in their backyard. It's also important to tell them they might not find a house that checks every single box, but is it something that they can add or work with? Are the spouses not lining up on what they want?
Yeah.
That's always fun. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like a therapist. If you, and apply that to people, right? Do you have any friends that have this checklist on what they want in a partner? And it's just too many things. They're never going to find that. Same thing with houses sometimes. All right, here's reasons buyers hesitate. Buyers and sellers are emotional and they're going to do and say things that do not make sense. And we gotta sometimes just sit there through it and coach them through it. And it's going to come out of nowhere. And it's going to be people that you know and love, right? Your even keeled friends are gonna probably get emotional and say some stuff during the process, right? Are they afraid to commit? Are they focused on minor details that may or may not make sense in your own mind? If you're like, oh, you hate the pools on the cabinet in the bathroom, like you can fix that. That's not a big deal. But they may be kind of self-sabotaging and they're focusing on it when it's really something else that's the problem. They feel like they haven't seen enough homes. That happens a lot. You show someone 1 to 3 homes and they're like, oh, we need to keep looking. And then they keep going back to that first one. I've had it happen. Ask them, hey, if we don't move on this, are you going to regret it if it sells? They need to sleep on it or get the opinion of a trusted advisor. That's not fun. If they sleep on it, they're probably not going to buy it. If they need to come back 5 different times and show their entire family and everyone they've ever met, they may not actually like it. Gira, somebody's in the chat again.
Sorry, it says it's Heather Zelenka. She's asking, what are some techniques to use when spouses don't agree?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know I've told you guys some tough stories, but I've sold homes where crimes have happened, where people have taken their lives, where divorce is happening. I've sold estates where the executor has had a heart attack and passed away. Sometimes they're getting divorced, sometimes they're not, they're just not getting along. This is a big life change for them. They're moving, they're making a huge life change, a big financial commitment. They may not get along. So use your judgment, what that conversation is going to look like. How real can you be with them? And sometimes I'm like, guys, I'm here for you. I am not your marriage counselor. So I'm in the middle of this and I'm here to help. But you can tell them, hey, we got to talk about this because Martha really wants a big kitchen and Bob only cares about the man cave in the basement. We got to find a happy medium, or we got to focus on houses that only have these 2 things. I want you both to be happy. And focus on that when you're talking to them, that you want them both to be happy. But ideally they agree on that before they, So if you ever apply for House Hunters, that is the #1 thing they decline people for, is that they can't disagree on something. So if your clients are interviewing, tell them that they have to disagree on something. Yeah, here's a little bit of a guideline to facilitate that. Go back to their motivation, their needs and wants. If they want this like massive finished basement with a barn, a movie theater and everything else, but they've told you this is a short-term home, do you really need that? Is this something we need to focus on? Advise them, consult as a fiduciary. Allay their fears. Whatever that word means. Solve their challenges, calculate the cost of waiting. That's important. That's a conversation we've had this last couple of years. You might be paying over list, but this low interest rate is going to benefit you long term. Right now, the conversation we're having is, this is actually a great time to buy. You've got more inventory, you have less competition. You're going to have a higher rate, but let's get concessions and buy it down. And then in the spring, you can buy it down even further. And guess what? When that bucket dumps out of buyers that hit the market and flood it when it's 4 and 5% again, you got a lower price and you're going to refi and you got the best of both worlds. There's always something to benefit someone in any market. And in a seller's market, you know, if a buyer is waiting, if you waited from 2020 to 2021, did you get a better deal? Probably not. You probably paid more. Same thing with a seller right now. If they want to wait a month to list and things are going to get even colder, do they want to wait? Does anyone have any ahas or even questions that I can answer right now, since there's a slide for it? If you don't, that's okay.
I like to follow up until they die or buy.
Yeah.
That
Thank
is the
you.
name of the game, it's just constant contact and follow up.
Yeah. I'm trying not to go over, I don't know how many more slides there are. If I do, I apologize. I talk. Because I enjoy teaching you guys new things. Yeah, follow up until they buy or die. Always, every time. What do sellers want? They want their home priced competitively. They want you to market it. They want you to tell you how they're going to market it. They want it sold in a specific timeline. They want the most money. They might need help fixing things up or suggestions. They live in their house, right? They're used to it. They don't know that having on the kitchen counter, the air fryer, the espresso maker, the coffee maker, the ice cream maker, that it's going to look cluttered. We have to tell them these things. Okay. We need to know their price, their time frame, and their conveyances, right? What does that mean? Are they really attached to their washer and dryer? Are they negotiable? Are there things that they want to leave behind? Are they willing to sell all the furniture because they're moving into an RV and they're just going to travel the world? Who knows? You have to discuss price with them. Do they have equity? Are they at all flexible? Are they realistic? Are they not realistic? Do they need to move as soon as possible? Because that's going to factor in price. Do they need to move in 6 months? That's a conversation too. Again, with lives or world changing, going back to, did they have triplets unexpectedly? Did they think this was their forever home? And then maybe their health changed and they can no longer do stairs? Are they just making a lot more, a lot less money? Did they get into a hobby of collecting cars and they need a garage? You know, what is their motivation? Do they, you know, it's important to have the conversation too, if they're selling to buy, what that's going to look like and what their options are and what the pros and cons are. The sellers are almost all uncomfortable extending offers or not having a house to move to before they put their house on the market. Most of the time, it's better to list it first and have it under contract. They might not know that you can list it contingent on a purchase, right? They control price and condition. We can do things to help them. We can hire a cleaner, we can hire a stager. At the end of the day, their definition of clean and staged is going to be different. Everyone's is different. Some of them really listen, some of them don't. We can guide them on price. At the end of the day, they might have a different price in mind. And that is your decision. So I personally, most of the time, do not take an overpriced listing because here's what that looks like. You have the conversation with them. If we don't have showings in 10, 14 days, we're going to have this conversation about a reduction. Most of the time when that conversation comes up, they do not remember having it, and it is your fault that it is not selling. And what can you do? And can you ramp up marketing? We can't make a house worth more than it is. And at the end of the day, a property is worth what someone's willing to pay for it. You will have agents that will put a listing agreement with any number on it in front of a seller to sign, just so they can get the listing, and maybe the price changes over time. That's your decision if you want to do that. I recently went on a listing appointment. I had it comped at 525 all day. The house was a good size, but that's what the area supported. And it also had a lot of custom updates. They listed it 625. It did not sell. The listing expired. It's on the market with someone else that listed it also for more than I had it comped for, not selling. I would personally rather price a listing appropriately. And if I'm gonna price it a little higher than I prefer, I will usually ask that I write in a reduction at a certain point. Because that conversation just gets tougher and tougher to have. Either you can write it on an addendum. I will typically put it in a follow-up email, like not a contractual thing, but just if we're on the market for 10 to 14 days, we're going to discuss a potential reduction per our conversation. Yeah. All right, sensitive seller conversations. Does anyone have an idea what that might look like?
There's that want to sell but don't want to sell.
Okay, yep. Pet odors, food smells. Yeah, do they have a bunch of plugins and it's not working? Leaving the home for showings, because some of them are like, I'm not letting strangers in my house. Clutter, deferred maintenance items. Do they have a bunch of like spots in the ceiling from leaks and they just didn't care to fix it? Weapons. I know that's, some people are really protective of having gun safes photographed. I don't know why. I've run into it a bunch of times. Put weapons, put expensive things away. Don't leave your Apple Watch on the counter. I've yet to have someone steal something, but you don't want to have like cash and jewelry setting out, things that they need to put away. We have a listing that just hit recently and they had family photos on every surface. Like, yeah, like printed out photos, taped it to the wall, the doors, and that's their style. And they appreciate having those around. But when I'm bringing a buyer in, I need them to envision themselves here and not put the focus on you being in the home. And custom things. Some things that some people decorate with that don't always photograph well, or is if they have a favorite color in everything, red, purple, the curtains, the throw pillows, everything is that color. It can really stick out in photos and not look good. So we have to have conversations with them about that. And people live in their homes, okay? They don't know that it smells like cat pee. They're used to it. I don't always outright say like, hey, it smells like cat pee, but I'll say like, hey, I know you live here. I can really smell the pet. How do you feel about having the carpet shampooed? Just so it smells fresh and clean. Price. If they are really, really off from where you're at, that's a tough conversation to have. And this is why, when I was talking about with buyers, you get to be everyone's best friend. You don't always get to be that way with sellers, even in a seller's market. Are they very, if it ain't broke, don't fix it? I had sellers years ago. The furnace is actually a geothermal system, which is a coil, not a furnace. And it was very old and there was black smoke coming out of it everywhere. And they had towels wrapped around pipes that were just fused to it and it was unsafe. And they were like, it's working. That's, they don't like hearing it. They have an opinion that's different from yours, no matter how right or wrong. And it says there's a conversation template. Whatever page that is on. But you want to provide a strong foundation. You know, if we're working together, I'll advise you on this. Manage expectations. Is your home going to sell quickly, or does it not line up with the comps in the neighborhood? Is it the biggest house in the neighborhood and that's going to affect price, even though the house a neighborhood over looks a little different? Curb appeal. What can we do to improve that? Show them examples. Show them pictures of houses that are photographed and staged really well versus not. Sorry, I'm going over. Fair housing, important. We cannot discriminate. We cannot allow our clients to discriminate. This is why letters kind of fell by the wayside, because it's very difficult, as well-meaning as someone is, to write a letter without violating a Fair Housing Act, even something as simple as, you know, my wife and I and our 2 kids, that is like 3 different fair housing violations right there. So, and we can't allow our clients to do that. I've definitely been on listing appointments and I've left shocked at something that the seller told me. And I either have to manage their expectations and have that conversation and change it. I can't speak on things like this. I cannot tell you, and I do not know anything about these people other than their offer. You have to remind them of that.
I've had a couple of instances where, and just the other day, we put in an offer and it was the best offer, it was cash offer. And the other agent was like, tell me about I said, well, she's a single woman, loves the house, loves the property. Well, is she gonna be able to maintain it? Okay, not his business, okay? And I'm like, okay, and then he was like, well, I was, well, actually, she's downsizing, but because I didn't want to piss the seller off, because.
The agent had no business saying that or making that assumption.
Well, but I was very not happy that,
Yeah,
yeah.
I would have probably pointed out that that's not an appropriate comment to make. I personally am in my 30s. I have 2 rental properties. I have my personal home and I had a prior personal home, and I maintained all of them on my own.
Right.
So it's not the 40s. That was not an okay thing for them to say.
It was a younger male real estate agent. Like, dude,
Yeah, and if you need to bring in a broker or a management or something to have a conversation, I had this is the only client that ever like brought me to tears. They had an investment property, I was selling it, and he brought someone else in who was a friend who I at first said, you cannot communicate, you're not a party to this transaction. Well, he put written permission, and I got calls from this person that I shouldn't be selling it because I'm a female, and I had how would I know about investments and money and what, and I was like,
oh my God.
I was, you know, and it got worse and I was very upset about it. And I eventually had to like, you're communicating with me through my broker or with him copied or whatever that looks like, because it was inappropriate. And also I was not the one. Okay. I grew up in real estate investments world. Okay. And I have them and I can fix things on my own, and it's not anyone's business to judge it otherwise. But always ask for help. If it's easy, we see this on paper, but if you're meeting with a seller, it's really easy to feel backed into a corner if they say something and you don't know how to respond. Bring whoever in that you need to. Okay. No commission's worth your reputation. That's important. When I got into this business, my dad, who is now licensed, once told me there's going to come a point where you don't cross the road for $100. And I didn't know what that meant. And I said, I'm helping everyone and I don't care what the commission looks like, how big or how small or whatever. And then I met, let me give her a fake name, Nancy. That's not this client's real name. She was horrible, abusive, would call me until I answered. Would call me sitting in a driveway incessantly 30 times because she wanted to see that house immediately. Every single day, I would wake up to a minimum of 16 all caps emails from her, yelling at me, screaming at me. And this was in the height of the pandemic. So at one point we went to a house that we waited, it was an open house because we couldn't get a showing. We waited in line for like 45 minutes to even get in this house. She's like, well, this isn't worth what they're asking. And I was like, well, eventually she asked me to have agents on call. So if I couldn't answer her immediately and drop what I'm doing to show her this house, someone else could. And I let this go on for way too long and I let this person go. And she ended up like a week later learning her lesson and buying a house that I showed her with another agent. And they probably didn't get the experience that I did, but I let it go on too long. It wasn't worth it. It was taking away from people I could actually take care of that were respectful of my time. And I will never do that again. Okay, how many? Uh-oh. Trying to see how much more stuff is on here. Okay, we've got quite a few slides. All right, how important are any of these? Bye, thank you. Yeah, I don't want to take up a ton of your time. We obviously don't need to role model. But prep, follow-up, be safe.
Okay.
The fortunes and the follow-up, right? We do